Oh yeah, greetings and welcome to Train Your Legs Part 3. This video was prompted by a young man, a young champ named Jose. Shout outs to you, Jose. Que pasa? Train your legs, y'all. Like we stated in the previous Train Your Leg videos, your legs are your foundation. For any athlete, specifically fighters, any man, woman, or child needs good leg strength, needs great leg position, and must use efficient leg motion. So without further ado, train your legs. Train your legs. You need to train your legs.
You need to train. No more talk, train.
Wood chopping, farmer walks, buddy carries, squat jumps, plyometrics. Plyometrics aren't just subject to the lower body, but the whole body. If you've ever done those push-ups where you're in push-up position, you're pushing up off the ground and then explode into the air, clap your hands, and then put your hands back in push-up position to catch yourself when you land, to return back to the ground, that is also a plyometric. So gymnasts, runners, ballerinas, fighters, swimmers, a plethora of athletes use plyometrics to strengthen and fine-tune their body. To spring into action, to jump into first place, to thrust in for the kill. Almost any sort of bounding or explosion exercise is overall great, but especially great for your core and your legs. All right, so here's some examples, y'all, of some plyometrics, such as box jumps. When you're running, you get on one leg, you put the other leg in the air, bent, keep it bent at the knee in the air, and you run on that one leg, let's say for 50 yards. And then you switch to the other leg. You pump your arms and you're on that one leg, almost as if you have only one leg. Leg ups, butt ups off the ground.
Kiss my Converse.
The legendary Big George Foreman said for his legs, he would chop wood. He would dig holes, dig ditches, but for the most part, he ran. He also did a lot of work, a lot of training on his farm. No weights, just calisthenics, running, wood chopping, digging holes, practical things. Remember, he's an old school fighter. Even though he did come back in the late 80s, early 90s, Big George was an old school fighter. There's also rare pictures of him carrying cows over his shoulders. Now that's reminiscent of the old ancient exercises where you see in the hieroglyphs or in old pottery art or old cave art, you'll see a man carrying a cow or a heavy bull or ram or stone over his shoulders and walking it out. I guess you can call that a sort of farmer walk, but the farmer walk usually deals with you having something heavy in your hands and then walking it out. Big George also said that he didn't touch weights until his return in 1987 at the age of 38. So picture that. The man had big, strong, whopping legs, doing what he was doing in his youth when he was undisputed champion. He didn't start using weights now, y'all, until the late 80s, early 90s upon his return at the age of 38.
Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Foreman goes on to say that in his youth, in his prime, he only ran 3 miles while in his prime, just 3 measly miles before his fights or during his training camps. But the much older, heavier Big George said that he would have run an amazing 10 miles in his fight camps. Now his trainer, Mr. Charlie Ships or Charlie Shipes, came up with a creative method to keep George active and to keep him motivated to run these 10 miles. What he would do was hook up an apparatus with a heavy bag, put it on the back of a truck, drive slow at a pace that George could keep up at, and let George jog and hit the heavy bag while running those 10 miles. So if you can imagine, Big George Foreman, age 38, maybe 42, because this is the later part of his career, running 10 miles behind a truck that's got a heavy bag hooked up to the back of it, hitting that heavy bag. Train your legs. Train your legs. The late great Joseph Louis Barrow, Joe Louis, he also worked out in nature, specifically Greenwood Lake for a lot of his fights. Greenwood Lake, New York. And he did many things such as rowing, skipping, jumping rope, shadow movements, and he would carry heavy items up flights of steps. I can remember reading that he used to carry big old blocks or big old masses of ice up flights of steps. Alexander Karelin, the great grappler, he also did similar workouts for his legs, core. Really, they're great full body workouts, but your legs really have to be in excellent shape to carry heavy items up flights of steps. I want to say Karelin used a refrigerator. The great Zeke Jones, he did exercises also out in nature where he would grapple, let's say, a tree, but I think in his case he used a soccer or a football goal post, and he would drive his feet into the ground, put his head and shoulder down, and almost like an isometric in place, just keep driving into this immovable object. That's also excellent for training your legs. Train your legs, y'all. Train your legs. But I have two special guests two special fighters that I know and have trained with. They're gonna give you their take on training their legs. So without further ado, first we have a Taekwondo artist who was on the Olympic ladder. I'm gonna let you get his take.
What kind of leg exercises were you doing to strengthen your legs and to keep your legs in good shape?
I did a lot of leapfrogs. I did a lot of, where you jump over the person's shoulder. I did a lot of leapfrogs you can use that without somebody too now. You go all the way down, and then you jump as high as you can forward. Like you're going across a basketball court or football field.
Yeah.
We would do that the whole football field. Leapfrog all the way down to one side. Just like I gotta show you, man, like the leg ups, the knee ups.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of knee ups, man. A lot of knee ups. Like right side 50, left side 50. Just real quick, working on that fast twitch muscle. But we never did any weight. Never lifted anybody up.
Oh, okay, so y'all never did leg press or squats or anything like that?
No, you would probably think some people did it, but Master Kim in Rochester, he always have us work exactly what our own body weight. So our leapfrogs and our knee ups and I know there's more that we used to do without weight, but that was something I would have to show you, I guess, when I see you.
Okay.
I don't know the name of all of them.
Okay, because I know a lot of the old school fighters did leg workouts without weights, so I just wanted to confirm with you and see how you did it.
Yeah. Some people used to back in the day. They used to put the ankle weights on and do that, but that messes up your hip and stuff. Yeah, but I only did pretty much a lot of leapfrogs. We jumped over stuff, and
Okay, that's excellent. Well, I appreciate that, big dog. I sure do.
Train your legs. Bob Fitzsimmons, y'all, would do heavy cycling up to 15 miles at a time before even beginning his boxing workouts. Bob Fitzsimmons, the late great Bob Fitzsimmons, like how Lance Armstrong would do the Tour de France and do that long, however many mile race, Bob Fitzsimmons would do something similar, probably not as long, because I think the Tour de France is a few days long. But Bob Fitzsimmons would cycle 15 miles before beginning his boxing workouts. Another late great, Marvelous Marvelin Hagler. I said Marvelin. He is Marvelin. Shout outs to Marvel. Marvelous Marvin Hagler would run like a madman. He would train at his infamous site up there in Cape Cod, Massachusetts or Vermont, somewhere far up there in the Yankee territory, New England territory. But he would get up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning in the snow and run for miles. And it's interesting about Marvin Hagler. I searched and read, and over the years, his workouts were never really specific. He never said or never showed anything that he did specific for his legs. From what I observed, he did a lot of running. He did a lot of knee ups, a lot of core exercises, a lot of sparring, and a lot of simple footwork. But he did it to the umpteenth power. He did it vigorously like a madman. Another late great, Hammering Hank, Homicide Hank, Henry Armstrong. For his lower body, for his legs, he would do a lot of skipping. Yup. Like that old song we used to sing back in the day, y'all. Lose, get to my loo. He would skip. Now, not just Henry Armstrong, but a lot of fighters would skip around. I remember we used to do that for a lot of warm-ups. And sometimes 10, 15, 20 minutes. You would have whole skip sessions. Now, what is skipping good for? You see young children do it. Y'all remember the game hopscotch? I know you remember seeing young girls, little girls doing it. But skipping is not only good for coordination, it's good for, it's almost like a bounding plyometric explosive exercise. It's good for movement, it's good for coordination, it's good for your foot placement, and it involves your whole body, but you're using your feet, you're skipping around, you're bouncing, you turning to the side. My old Coach D, legendary Coach D, we used to do a thing called karaoke, where we would run to the side, we would shuffle to the left or to the right, do a high knee, lift the high knee over, cross over the leg that's down, bring the other leg back out, cross that other leg, that left leg back over the right leg as you're moving in one direction. So it's a lot of hip and leg motion going on. Hip and leg coordination, hip and leg torquing, hoo. Getting those feet ready to move and pounce and get into position. And of course, the age-old jump rope. Almost every fighter, probably almost every athlete jumps rope. So it's not too far-fetched to just jump rope for hours, for minutes. I used to know a lot of workout with women in those yoga sessions and those, what you call those sessions, y'all, when you go in there, it's hot as hell in the room, and people got mats. Some folk got little small hand weights. Some people, and you would just be in there like a family sweating. People would rope and run in place and do stretches for an hour and a half. And it was excellent. It was excellent.
Back to the gym, son.
Now that I'm thinking about it, not only is jump rope great for overall exercise, but it's good for it's cardio, of course, full body workout, your fast twitch muscles in your, I guess you could say your wrist, because it's real good for wrist rotation, quickness of the foot. The list goes on. The list goes on. Also shuffling, y'all. Shuffling is real good for your legs. We used to take what we call stance drill, those sorts of drills, karaoke, and we would do those for whole workouts. When I got up into the higher levels of grappling, right before I started fighting, I would Go in the room, about 30 to 45 minutes. That's one of my favorite exercises. I call it stance drill, or it's called stance drill. But it involved heavy shuffling, a lot of shuffling, switching your feet, sugarfooting it, shuffling forward, shuffling backward, shuffling to the side, rolling in the middle of the shuffle, back up. And man, you wouldn't believe the sweat, especially if you're getting a good stance, a good horse stance, or a good low, square, sturdy stance and shuffle. Whoo! Legs be on fire. Legs be on fire now.
Yeah, that's right. Bow, sucker.
Now, the older coaches refrain from using weights for training their fighters, but that doesn't mean you have to. I will say that for certain situations and for certain muscles like the neck, your traps, weights prove to be very efficient. But this video is called Train Your Legs. Train your legs. So here's the final clip from a warrior, a fighter, and coach describing his leg training for fighting.
The main thing we used was ankle weights. And of course you would alternate between the weight and then natural kicks. So you do weighted kicks. I don't know, let's say you do a Sotek. You do 10 of those with the weight on them, and then you do 10 without it. So it'll work your speed and your strength. You also could kick while you're in the pool. Kick objects you know won't move, like trees or side of building or something like that, to just build up your legs to take the jarring and the resistance and the impact and things like that. That
Yes.
also builds the strength in the joints.
Cause I remember you used to do those 1,000 kicks to the tree, and your kicks were flawless. I remember that.
That's right. So yeah, basically ankle weights and any type of resistance you can. I mean, hey, you might even be able to tie like what do they call them, resistance bands around your legs, work your knees like that. Of course, the basics like your squats or leg presses and things like that, leg extensions. But I found for kicking, it's best if you do the full kick motion with it, because it works every muscle that's involved in the kick. Use the ankle weights while you do your kicks. Work on the technique with the ankle weights, and that will work every muscle that's involved in the kick. Work both legs equally. You don't, even though you might always lead with your right, you need to be training that left in case you have to lead with that too. And even get in the pool. Get in the pool. Do your kicks underwater.
And one more thing, Infinity. What about your footwork, your different stances, your maneuvering? Or what did you do to train to be proficient in that?
The pendulum is a technique where you could find a point on the floor, start with one foot at that point, and then as a pendulum, as you see where one of the balls strike the other, and they strike each other and left, right, swing. Left,
yeah,
right.
the old school. Yeah, you see the shows. They got the pendulum, ping, ping, ping. Yes, sir.
We used to practice like that. Do your footwork like that. Practice that pendulum, because it's really good to lead into kicks. And a lot of times that way you don't ever just have a solid stance and you're standing there. And Jeet Kune Do, that pendulum, you can keep that movement up the whole time. And you can do any kick you have from that pendulum. So that was really important. That was one of the main things. And we spent a lot of time in class just doing the pendulum.
Wow.
And that could be done weighted too. And then from your pendulum, you might go into now tech, which is what other arts would call a roundhouse kick or a hook kick. And Jeet Kune Do is a now tech.
Did y'all ever do any of the triangle steps, like the triangle formation with the footwork, or side steps, or shuffle steps?
Yeah, we do that, but the reason why we didn't do a whole lot of it is because the point is to make your moves fluid. So when you were breaking down the kicks and steps, you would say, okay, get into your Baijong or your Jeet Kune Do stance, your beginning stance. Then this kick would involve a sort of side shuffle movement, like a side kick might involve that. So they would show you how not to cross your legs and to still get that side shuffle kick off.
Exactly.
Then they'll show you how to do it from a pendulum, side shuffle, side kick. Right. But the goal is to make it one move. So yeah, we learn it in steps, but by the end, there shouldn't be any steps.
Exactly.
It should just be one move. But yeah, that was the key. For strong kicks, kick with the ankle weights, for footwork, and Jeet Kune Do at least, and Jun Fan boxing, more classically. The pendulum, we were training that a lot because most of the kicks, most of the leg attacks could be thrown from a pendulum. So those were the two main keys. But I'm sure it's advanced now because Jeet Kune Do is it's an ever evolving art.
Yeah.
So as people will take different techniques or remove techniques. So the kids nowadays might not feel that the pendulum works for them.
In closing, there are a myriad of exercises you can do for your legs. Train your legs. This is your foundation. If you want to be any good in whatever sport, athletic event, hell, even in this thing we call life, you got to have a strong foundation. You got to move yourself into position. So, off the top of the head, y'all, cycling, high knees, mountain climbers, and not just the exercise mountain climbers, but actually hiking, climbing up a mountain. Like how Juan Marquez did for that fourth Pacquiao fight. He said he had to go train up in the mountains, y'all. He said if he couldn't get a knockout, he had to train for a knockout. He knew if he couldn't get it, he wasn't going to win. And truth be told, mountain hiking used to be one of my favorite pastimes. Now it's a little too far of a travel, but about to go out to Vegas. And I can't wait to see what those hills and mountains and stuff look like out there. Vegas and Arizona. Anywho, what else is out there? The infamous Cog Hill. If you ever heard about Cog Hill, we probably spoke about it in one of the other Train Your Leg videos. But the infamous Cog Hill is where a lot of Olympic grapplers go and run sprints up a steep hill, up a mountain. And probably other Olympic athletes. It's out in Colorado. It's called Cog Hill, C-O-G Hill. What else could you do to train your legs, y'all? Repetitious footwork. Any sorts of things, y'all. Just be creative. Now, many of the old fighters, they would just run and they would do more practical stuff, practical full body workouts. They would just use the resources they had around them. The gym has 4 walls, lean up against the wall, squat down. Nature, chopping wood, things on the farm, things out in the country, water, there's all sorts of things. You know what I'm saying? So nothing beats just the good old road work. Now, me personally, what I used to do, I'll go in depth into that in another video. But until then, train your legs. Train your legs. Stay diligent, champs.
Hey, you out, sucker.